whose job is it anyway? Our recurring segment talking about employability and how we approach our different professional environments and how to develop transferable skills adaptable across any profession. And this article is around passive aggressiveness.
Avoid these 5 phrases that make you sound passive aggressive. Here's how successful people communicate.
What are your pet peeves with email etiquette?
As per my previous email.
Oh, okay. All right, so this is like bingo. We're going to see if any of these appear. None of it is outright rude. It's just a little hint of...
It's hard because sometimes it is as per your previous email, and how else do you phrase that?
Right.
So...
Right. And sometimes people do take forever to get back to you.
Yeah. I have to say, if I'm receiving that, then it's on me because I've made some kind of error. I'm not that offended by it.
Okay, but there could be people who find that very offensive.
It can be a bit passive aggressive.
It's not my pet peeve, but a salutation of hey is many, many professors' number one pet peeve.
This is horrible, and I never receive emails that start with hey.
So you think this is horrible? Because I'm a bit mixed on it. A lot of these are coming from students, right? So students say, hey, professor, hey, Jack. It's very informal.
I feel like hey is more informal than hi. If it said hi, Jack, or hi, professor, then I would find that much more polite.
You're exactly the same vintage as many of the professors who are finding this offensive because hi is not offensive in the least. A hey is one bridge too far.
I agree with them.
How much more dignity do I have to lose before people start respecting me and start saying hi instead of hey? It's very common.
It's a bit too familiar.
Hey, so that's a very common. It's not my personal pet peeve. I've gotten used to it. Students do say hey all the time. I do educate them to say there is somehow an invisible rumpled line between hey and hi that we must hold in academia. We do not accept hey. We will begrudgingly be okay with hi.
The general order for it for me would be to be very, very formal. Then once they respond, if they just sign off with their name, which I mean, they wouldn't sign off with their title usually, then that allows a bit more informal communication. Be like, dear professor, such and such, and then hi, first name in the response as you go back and forth. So I feel like this is a sort of unspoken etiquette in how to do it.
A lot of international students come from a culture where it's very hierarchical compared to Australia, and they have to address their superiors as sir or madam and be very, very ultra polite. But in Australia, we find that very off-putting as superiors. The first thing we'll say is, don't call me professor, call me Jack.
Yeah.
We're very comfortable with first name basis. And when those ropes of etiquette start getting untangled, an international student doesn't know where it stops. Well, I'll tell you where it stops. It stops with hey. That's where it stops. That's the line.
You know, I can see how the mistake would be made though. If English isn't your first language, these, slight subtle differences between hey and hi they're not that clear.
The last faux pas we'll talk about from our own experiences before we launch the article is the very, very tiny microaggression that is regards, not kind regards. To really let them know you mean business.
What's your sign off on an email usually?
It is always kind regards.
Right.
I have it built into my email signature, so I never am tempted to be less formal or more formal. It's always kind regards.
Mine is usually sincerely.
A lot of people like to say cheers. What are we cheering to exactly? More work? It's
More
not
work.
particularly
Cheers
cheery.
to more work.
Not a very cheery.
And then a little
circumstance.
dash and A for Amanda.
Oh,
We're
you
really
do
familiar.
A, really?
A.
The
I'm a
single
busy
letter.
person.
A. Just have an auto signature, write your full name. Just how mysterious do you need to be?
Well, the
A.
signature still goes on there, but yeah, so an A at the bottom and then my full email signature.
I didn't know that about you. I'm going to judge you a little bit more carefully from this point on.
okay.
Just sign off with A. Actually, I don't think I've received an email from you where you've signed off A.
No.
We're not that familiar, apparently.
No, we're not.
I'm not at that level of intimacy.
I will address you as professor in the first email to you.
But hey, professor.
Hey, professor.
Not hi, professor. These are the 5 email faux pas that they say are the most common. There's a bingo. You've ticked one per my last email.
Yes,
that is
okay.
quite passive aggressive.
So it's right there, right at the top.
Yes, I don't think any of mine made the list. For future reference, it says the subtext of that is, let me correct your blatant mistake that you should have already known was wrong.
I don't think that one's that rude. I don't really say it, but if I received that, I wouldn't be offended.
Okay, but if you're going to include this in your future email for future reference,
I'd be like, thanks for helping me out for next time.
bumping this to the top of your inbox. Ooh,
I've never seen that.
I've never received that one. I don't need anything bumped in my inbox.
No, inbox bumping.
What it actually means, this is the third time I've asked you, I need you to get this done. Like, I've never received that. I'm hoping I never do receive that, nor will I be bumping anything to anyone's inboxes. Maybe we're in the minority, okay? Please leave a comment down below or let us know if you are constantly having things bumped to the top of your inbox.
Just to be sure we're on the same page. I've received it. I don't really use it.
It says the implication here is I'm going to cover my butt here and make sure that everyone who refers to this email in the future knows that I was right all along. Last one, going forward, ... and it actually means do not ever do that again.
I'm not that offended by that either. I would use that, but it would be in the context of going forward, why don't we try, or let's do this, as more of a collaborative effort.
Well, this has been flagged on a pretty big outlet as an email faux pas. So even if it's not an email faux pas in the past, now that it's been flagged and you use it, people might have read this article and say, oh, hold on. Hasn't Amanda read the most common email passive-aggressive faux pas article? She's so behind the times. I'm going to email her and say, for future reference, please refer to this article around email faux pas.
Just to make sure we're on the same page.
Per my last email, Amanda.
Ooh.
Going forward, I want you to make sure we're on the same page.
But if you sign up with Jay, it'll be fine.
I'm not going to sign up any email with Jay. No one is familiar. No one is so familiar that I'm going to give him a single initial, right? No one.
I err on the side of probably a little bit too polite in my emails.
Okay. I don't think good manners can do any harm.
I agree. And often, you're asking for something, so why not be polite about it?
What I will say though is that brevity is undervalued because if you write a lot of text, that's not that polite either. You ask them to read it. So what I always do is I write the full email, and I'm also erring on the side of being more polite. I try and go back and cut out 30% of the email if I can. If I can still get that message across in 50 to 60% of the original text, that's the ultimate politeness, to not have to read as much.
That's a very fair point. And I think sometimes I spend too long writing an email.
So this article does not just raise a problem without a solution. It gives you a few concrete strategies to respond to these email situations. First one is don't respond to messages or emails when you're angry or frustrated. If an email is triggering for you and you are getting consistently frustrated by the emails that you're receiving, not a great sign that you're in a particularly healthy work environment.
Very true.
You may not have a choice about that. Let's say you were in conflict resolution and your emails were like about child safety. Like every email you get is about another endangered child or another case of some kind of criminal act. When you get those emails and they listed those negative emotions, don't respond straight away. How long would you wait if you received an email that made you angry, which hopefully again is not every single email?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Is that too long?
That's not long at all. 30, you can calm down from your anger in 30 minutes. You're a very zen person. You're more zen than me.
I'd walk away and have a cup of tea and then
I'll walk away and have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Have a cup, and that's a 30-minute tea break. So I guess if you're getting a constant barrage of rude emails, there's a lot of tea breaks. I leave it overnight. If I have the capability to, I leave it overnight.
If it were in the afternoon, then I think that's fair. I'd try and do it the same day. So if it came in the morning, and try and respond in the afternoon. Late afternoon, maybe overnight.
You have skipped ahead to the fourth strategy here, which is avoid digital ghosting. In that if you can respond to it within 60 seconds, then do so. The danger in that is that it's like you're on a messenger live chatting with them if they have more than one query. So my rule of thumb is I will respond to 2 or 3 back and forths in the moment, and then it's going to have to wait.
Okay.
That 60-second rule applies unless the same person emails me 3 times in that span. I've got to call it quits. I don't have time to be responding to one person's queries all the time.
There's a lot of different things going on day to day for me. So I try and respond straight away where I can so I don't forget about it later. And then my other strategy is to mark something as unread if I don't have time then to respond to it to make sure it keeps appearing in my inbox.
The email client that I use and most of us use is Outlook. And Outlook, you can flag emails, little red flag. It has lost all meaning to me. I've so many flagged emails. I do not care if it's flagged or not. I don't care if it's urgent or not unless I see it in 60 seconds. Only barometer is have I read it yet or not? So I do what you do as well.
What if it has a little exclamation mark next to it?
Oh, that's the urgent. That's the high priority.
Yeah.
But unless it is unread, it is of no consequence to me at this point, right? I get so many emails.
Nothing to you.
It means nothing to me. It barely raises a blip on my radar. But that's because I receive so many emails. If I get 10 a day, then I'll read everything. But I get like 150 a day sometimes, right? There's a few other strategies here, but the one I want to end on is this one. I think this is an important point that you have partially explained why you are quite zen. You assume the sender is not passive aggressive or not trying to needle you. Not only will you be less likely to be constantly needing tea breaks to calm down from being angry, but it just makes your working life a little smoother. If you assume good intent, you're less likely to be passive aggressive in your response, and that person doesn't have to assume the best of you. They will just see the best of you in every interaction.
In my job, I often need things from people, and it's a lot easier to get things when you're friendly.
Be more polite than you have to be, and be brief, then are more likely to respond. I'm Jack.
And I'm Amanda.
Hope to connect with you again next time around.